Welcome to the Leadership Winston-Salem April 2025 Leaders and Lunch webinar. For those of you who may be less familiar with Leadership Winston-Salem, we are a nonprofit organization that works with over 100 community leaders each year to educate, connect, and energize them to serve and improve the community through our flagship and insight programs. Hosting webinars like this is just one of the ways that we continue to educate our class members and stay connected to alumni. Today's sponsor for our conversation is Miracles in Sight. Miracles in Sight is a nonprofit eye bank headquartered right here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, dedicated to restoring sight through the recovery, processing, and distribution of donated eye tissue. Founded in 1951 as the North Carolina Eye and Human Tissue Bank, it was later renamed to reflect its mission more clearly. The organization partners with surgeons, hospitals, researchers to provide corneal tissue transplants, helping thousands of individuals regain vision each year. Over time, Miracles in Sight has expanded its operations across multiple states and internationally, becoming one of the largest and most respected eye banks in the world. In addition to transplantation, the organization also supports innovative research and education to advance the science of ophthalmology and eye care. Thank you to Miracles in Sight for sponsoring today's conversation. At this time, I would like to introduce our panelists for today's webinar. Our conversation leader is Dr. Sabrina Hinton, owner and operator of North Point Academy, early childhood education professor at Winston-Salem State University, and also a Leadership Winston-Salem graduate. Tina Bice, project manager for human resources at Wake Forest University. Samantha Cole, Childcare Business Liaison for the North Carolina Department of Commerce. Jasmine Godbolt, owner, The Nesting Nannies. Mary Luco, Vice President for Human Resources and Chief Human Resources Officer for Wake Forest University. And last but not least, Bryce Sherman, owner, Sherman's Drop-In Childcare and Summer Program. At this time, I'll turn it over to Sabrina so she can get our conversation started. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome to today's conversation. We have a great list of panelists with us today to help expand and talk about and discuss early childhood education here in Forsyth County to ensure that our children and our families have access to high quality resources that they need to start a strong life and high quality facilities. So today we're going to connect some dots and we're going to hear from all of these phenomenal leaders across Forsyth County and get more detailed information about their individual organizations and how they have their perceptions of early childhood education and the pathway that we are headed in. So to start today's discussion, I would like to start with a question for our panelists, Mary and Tina from Wake Forest Childcare. What are your recommendations and what recommendations do you have for employers considering the option of childcare right now?
Tina, I'll come behind you, Tina.
Sounds great. So to start off, I would definitely recommend conducting a needs assessment survey. So Wake Forest contracted with a third party back in 2019, I believe, to conduct a needs assessment survey. And I think we had about 56% participation among all employees. And those are parents and non-parents alike, trying to understand what their greatest needs are, what their current situation is, and so on. And that it's really guided everything that Wake Forest has done since then. We were able to go back to the survey and say, what are the greatest needs? Because there are so many varying needs. And I think it's been really helpful to have that grounding. Through that, we also made the decision to move forward with a near-site childcare center. And there is, a world in which we could have chosen a different option if the needs assessment survey did something else. So I definitely recommend that to other organizations to say, what is the first best option that we can pursue?
I would just add to what Tina just said, that be really clear about what your goals are. Are you trying to solve a childcare crisis such that we have in our country? Are you using this for a recruitment type of purpose? Are you doing both of those things? I mean, all those sort of decisions that you make early on will drive the whole way that you structure the program, the offerings, cost basis, those sorts of things.
So those are good comments. Again, I think it's very phenomenal for the surveys because you need to identify cost, the location, the hours that you're going to operate, availability if you're going to offer wait list, the quality that parents are looking for. We have so many people relocating here to Forsyth County, and they're younger, so they're looking for different things than parents were looking for 20 years ago. We want to make sure that there's transportation. A lot of families are coming into our area with infant and toddlers. So we're going to speak to, by surveying, the true needs on the ground level of what families are coming and moving to Forsyth County looking for. So I'm going to move along and I'm going to go to Bryce. As a private business owner, Bryce, what challenges have you faced in the childcare industry and how have you overcome them?
All right. Well, first of all, good morning, everyone. Some of the challenges that I face are probably typically what everyone else may face as well. But I'm gonna say the two biggest are probably locations and transportation. A lot of parents in our communities, they have the lack of transportation, or they don't have the transportation to get to point A to point B. Being that I have a facility, my facility is located in point A, but they may live in C or D, and sometimes trying to get all the way over to my location could be a hassle for them. And it could be the transportation either, or hey, I have one car, or dad has the car, mom has the car. So I would say the two biggest factors and the challenges that I face when parents reach out to me and say, hey, we love your facility. We see what you guys can do. We've heard a lot of good things about it, but you're too far. We don't have the transportation to get there. Or if we're doing summer camp, hey, we open up at 8 o'clock. They needed to get there at 7:30 because they have to be at work. So those are some of the issues that parents reach out to me and stress out to me. Hey, could you open up early, or do you have one on this side of town? You're really affordable, but again, we just cannot make it there in the time or the transportation reason. So that's one of the two biggest challenges that I face.
Okay, well understood. How have you addressed those? Do you have a plan to overcome those?
Yes.
Um,
Right. Glad you asked. So yeah, so what I did is I actually expanded. So now I do more. So I have a home location, but now I have extra locations. So I rent out like maybe a church or a recreation center, and I offer childcare there because it's very hard just to up and find a space that's childcare approved. You got to go through inspections and things of that nature. So what I would go is maybe go to a school, use a school to use my childcare, or go to a recreation center to use their facility, which is child and things of that nature. So that's what I do. And now I've actually expanded. So I have one on the north side of town. I have one on the south central side of town. And I'm looking to expand more. So that is one of the biggest things that I heard the cries. I heard what the parents were asking me. And I said, hey, my job is to help out the community, do what I can to help the community out. And by doing that, I look to expand. And that's what I did. I just started reaching out to local churches. Hey, you have this space. Could I use this space to offer childcare? It could be drop-in care. And also, a lot of people just think childcare, they think of daycare. When I think of childcare, I think of after-school programming. I think of summer camp, things of that nature. So these are other things that I have done now, which I have after-school programs on different sites, different sides of towns, and I have summer camps on different sides of town as well, so I can reach the needs of all the families in our community.
so Bryce, thank you for sharing, because when I think of childcare, I think of educated practitioners that have put in the time and the work to do the job. I think of people who find education as their passion, their ministry, and they're in it to win it to provide phenomenal services for children and families. So thank you for offering your expertise in that area. I am going to jump over to Jasmine with Nesting Nannies. What inspired you to begin your program, Jasmine? And how does your model speak to the specific needs of the modern day family?
Yes, absolutely. And I definitely want to start with saying good afternoon and very happy to be here, a part of this amazing conversation. So what inspired me to start Nest and Nannies was through my personal lived experience. I am a product of a single mother of two, and as well as being a college student and watching my peers, especially mothers, having to go to college and struggle with balancing their education, work, and having that support as a parent. I do want to share a brief little statistic. I'm a one of the cohort members of Velocity, the Velocity Accelerator program. I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with that program. So I just was in the cohort last year. So great program, shameless plug, by the way. But in the US, 41.9 million Americans are college dropouts, and higher education institutions lose on average $16.5 billion annually due to student attrition. And North Carolina specifically feels the impact of that, noting that nearly 1 million students dropped out of college in 2023, accounted for 5.6% of the national total. So just understanding the demand of childcare and just a innovative, non-traditional way in the college space definitely inspired me to create this organization and keep going with it.
I'm going to agree. The college level students are dropping out in groves. The
Mhm.
ecosystem of education has taken a huge impact under our administration, with the state of the world right now and the things that we're going through. Our colleges are losing massive funding
Mhm.
around education and education majors. So when you think about the current state of childcare in our community, and you guys speaking to this about how we provide this equitable childcare systems for families that deserve to have the opportunity to experience high quality
Mhm.
childcare. I want to reach out to Samantha Cole. Samantha, if you don't mind leaning into your knowledge, please share an overview of the nationwide child care task force. What are you guys doing? What is your charge right now? And where are what are you guys looking forward to? And how is your work in explorations impacting early childhood education at this time?
Sure. Thank you so much, first of all, for having me. Thank you, Frida, for convening all of us. And Dr. Hinton, thank you for calling on me. I think you're referring to the North Carolina Task Force on Childcare and Early Education, which Governor Stein founded by executive order not very long ago. We're only about 4 or 5 weeks deep into this work. And it is actually the first task force that he initiated by executive order since taking office. So I think that should really speak to the level of priority that he and his administration are showing to making sure that increasing access to childcare is mission critical for their administration. And it's for a lot of reasons. Just to give you a little bit of background on the purpose and intention of the group, I think it comes on the heels of a very helpful growing body of evidence from the last few years that is specific to North Carolina, which I think is really important and exciting, helping us understand why, to the point that a couple of my colleagues on the call have already mentioned previously, why childcare access is really not just a social issue that affects moms and kids. It is an issue of economic and workforce development. And if we don't have it, we simply cannot see our communities achieve economic opportunity the way that we need them to in order to be successful and thriving. We cannot expect or depend on working families to be able to earn and save the way that we would love to see them do, and build wealth over time, build a savings, be able to support their children and subsequent generations. And we're not going to be able to see businesses that choose North Carolina as the right place for them to grow and pursue their ideas and ambitions, be able to be successful without resources that enable that labor force participation. So I think because there's a great understanding now of the fact that this is the economic development issue that it is, that was really a helpful footing for developing the task force. And all of us, I'm not a seated member, I am lead staff on the task force, however. So this is a great opportunity, as are many of these types of conversations, for me to sort of mine ideas and learn more about how childcare challenges are showing up in individual communities across the state so that we can make sure that our task force members do have access to that information and your perspectives and expertise. I would say that our duties are really about drilling down into a few key areas. First of all, looking at whatever supports and compensation solutions can look like to attract and retain the high quality early care and education workforce that we need to make sure that this industry can sustain itself and then continue to grow and meet the demand that we need it to, which is an enormous challenge because of the business model of childcare. It's very difficult to be business successful in this space because there are so many converging pressures put on childcare providers, especially in the realm of making sure that there's adequate talent in the industry to staff things. We're also looking closely at funding and finance streams that overlap with this industry, both public and private solutions, the way that money flows in and out of it, requirements that we have on leaders in the industry to do what they're doing, and also resources that can be put in place and resources that already are in place, but maybe could be underutilized to make sure that we can help more childcare businesses open and flourish. We're also going to be looking at opportunities to help encourage childcare access for workers in the public sector, which I think is really important, especially because we have many rural counties across the state where their largest employer is going to be the school system or another government entity or a local government in some form. Those folks who are providing those critical services every day to school children in K-12, through education to public safety to whatever it is, they need to be able to depend on high quality and affordable childcare for their families too, so that they can continue to provide those amazing services that make communities run and thrive and be successful. So all of these things are really in the vision of the work that the task force is doing right now. We're meeting until monthly until the end of June, where our first set of recommendations and interim report is going to be due to Governor Stein. And then we're going to have a more significant report and fuller list of recommendations that are going to be due by the end of December. But the work is ongoing. And I'm really appreciative of the fact that this administration and so many leaders who have generously agreed to serve on the task force are taking or evaluating this issue as the priority that it is for every North Carolinian, not just moms and children.
Thank you, Samantha. Thank you so much. So when I think about the big picture and I think about the equity, I'm going to lean into Jasmine's expertise here. We know that affordability and accessibility can vary very dramatically across county lines, across the county zones. I want to ask you, Jasmine, how do you see cooperative childcare models evolving in the future?
Yes, so I don't know if I share, but Nesta Nannies has a niche of targeting higher education institutions in North Carolina first. But as we know, different communities and whatnot has different traditional childcare, daycare models. So we see it becoming more localized, mobile, and community driven. We all have heard of the African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. Nesta Nannies is really on a mission to what I would like to say, reignite the village spirit and continue to nurture the future of families. And I definitely saw a huge need for this in the college space with just being a college student and just having peers having to drop out of college. My mom, unfortunately, that was her story. She had to, take a pause on her education to prioritize our family growing up. So I definitely see cooperative childcare becoming more mobilized, more community driven, and definitely partnering with different, like Bryce mentioned, churches, colleges, different recreational centers, community centers to have this space and partner with organizations like Nesta Nannies to facilitate these curated childcare events and whatnot.
So thank you. Partnerships are very, very lucrative in today's early childhood education workforce and our support and resource systems. I'm going to ask Mary. Mary, when I think about innovation, right? In your view, what is the current state of childcare in our community? What are the families telling us? Is managing a relationship with a third-party childcare provider like running any other vendor contract for Wake Forest?
I appreciate the question. I think this goes back to sort of what you're thinking about when you go into perhaps starting a childcare, either a center in a partnership like we have, or one of my colleagues on the call as they began thinking about their businesses. There's a lot to be said for investing time before you do anything and just thinking it through. At Wake Forest, the way we have partnered is that it is a contract that we have sort of outsourced with people that that their expertise is childcare. Our expertise is not childcare. So that was a first decision to make, that we would go that that route. But it is really not like managing a food service contract or you know, some other sort of contract, because you're dealing with people's most precious, you know, child, and it's quite different. And because, you know, in this scenario, we're also the family's employer, that adds another element to it. And so I would say that you do start a contract, you're managing the contract, but it's not like a set it and forget it. It is very interactive. It's a strong partnership with the childcare provider, with the families, making sure that they understand this is not just a contract. You're really there to support the family, to support the childcare provider as they are working through, you know, there are family concerns from time to time that come up in a childcare setting. And it really, I mean, thank you, Jasmine. That proverb is really appropriate, because it does take a village to make it run really positively, and to deal with the little bumps that do come along the road.
So Tina, part B, thank you, Mary. Tina, part B of that same question. We often talk about childcare as an infrastructure, right? But it doesn't function without its workforce, its educators, its practitioners. What are you all doing to address the line item of recruitment, support, and retaining educators? Because it does take a village to raise a child, and it takes a village to operate a child care facility.
Certainly. And I would go back to what Mary said too. So much of this starts with early planning. So when we were putting our contract together, it mattered to us what benefits were being provided to educators, what compensation was, how we would address that together as partners as we move forward over time. So I would say it really starts with the contract and placing, you know, educators as part of this equation for us. I would also say that we're in close conversation with the provider about outreach and where they have had success connecting with people who are, you know, passionate about this work and have this expertise. And I would say that we're still looking for ways that we can support our partners, particularly those partners on the ground who are providing care to, you know, the most precious children of our employees. And we're still fairly early in this relationship. So I think that we are figuring that over time, but in close contact with the director in particular, and the teachers about where we can come behind and provide support so we can do all of this together in a partnership.
Tina, if I might.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry,
Go ahead,
Dr.
Miriam.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just,
All right.
this partnership, it is very difficult to find early childhood educators, to your earlier point, Dr. Hinton, and we've actually partnered with them on hiring events and so on, because it's not like, okay, you go and do that. It's like all hands on deck. What do we need to do? It's a team approach on every aspect of this.
It is. So when you think about the hiring and retention of high quality educators, that partnership with your universities, Winston-Salem State University currently right now has the Transition to Teach OSEP grant, and we are actively recruiting educators with 60 credit hours or more. We have the funding to pay for their licensure process to get the teachers on that higher quality level as an educator. So I'm going to put a plug in for Winston-Salem State right here. I know Wake has a grant also but we are recruiting actively for educators, and it's an ongoing process because there's a huge need right now. So that's going to lead me right back to Samantha. Samantha, um, have you seen any promising models since you've joined the Governor's Child Care Task Force, whether from private centers, nonprofit, employer-sponsored such as Wake Forest? And if you have, how are they closing the gap? How can the task force encourage more private sector involvement in solving the child care crisis right now?
Sure. I love that question. So I have been in this role for just about a year now with NC Commerce, and I've been able to do a tremendous amount of learning, not just from how communities in other states are closing childcare access gaps, but how communities in this state are doing it and how the state can learn more about their work and how to replicate it. And I get to see really exciting ideas all the time. I would say that some of the things that I've seen yield a lot of success are models that don't necessarily try to resolve every component of the childcare crisis at the same time, because it's very complicated. Of course, we have challenges associated with there's not enough slots. Then we have challenges associated with it's not affordable for a lot of working parents, and people have to make really hard decisions about whether or not to even put their child in care if they can find it, because it's not necessarily worth what they're earning. And so people, not in the immediate term at least. And then of course we have challenges with workforce and making sure that we have people who are going to be appropriately compensated and benefited for the incredible, invaluable work that they're doing. All of those things kind of converge to make this a uniquely complicated problem. And unfortunately, we don't have a solution that seems to adequately address all three in a very efficient way just yet. But I have been extremely encouraged by the fact that there's so many exciting pilots out there right now trying to do one or two of those things very well.
Yeah.
And some of them are in this state too. A couple that I'll mention. First of all, I think it's really worth acknowledging in a lot of the communities that I talk to of the incredibly smart work that communities do to look at how the child care crisis is manifesting itself locally, because not solutions can't be one size fits all. In a state as diverse and as large as North Carolina is, we have 10 million people here roughly. We have many metropolitan areas. We have a very diversified economy. We have 80 rural communities and 20 urban ones. The truth is, like, we're going to need solutions that fit different scales, and that's fine. I think it's really clever though, whenever I see communities looking inward and saying, you know what, we might have a lot of workers in this community that need a certain type of care or care on a certain number of hours, or we have a lot of people in this community who are leveraging family, friend, and neighbor care rather than using center-based care. And that's fine, because that might meet their needs financially and also in terms of social and cultural preferences and the hours that they need, but it's also ripe for disruption. So how can we create a backup benefit for the times when that primary care arrangement that's preferred by that worker falls through, and acknowledge their needs that way? I've also seen really exciting efforts to look at the fact that in many communities, we have licensed childcare providers that are delivering excellent care, that are licensed to do so at a certain capacity, and they cannot serve children up to that capacity because they might have unmet expenses that are keeping rooms closed in their licensed facilities. So we can have a 5-star childcare provider that's licensed to serve 120 children that's currently only serving 80. And the reason for that might be they have an HVAC repair they need to do, or they are worried that they can't retain enough staff to keep that extra room they want to open consistently. So we have communities that are engaging in public-private partnerships to distribute that funding to folks in grants to say, if we help meet that financial need you're telling us about, will you be able to serve up to licensed capacity and be able to create those slots that can reduce wait lists in our community? There are a lot of incredibly promising things going on that I think can scale really nicely, and I'm really enthusiastic about the opportunity this task force has to learn a little bit more deeply about what those successful options are and how we can help other communities learn about whether those are going to be right for them, help employers understand if those are going to be options that they are ready, willing, and able to pursue, and how to get started, and really also look at things that might work statewide.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Samantha, for giving the panel that insight. I want to jump over to Bryce one more time. Bryce, how are parents being included in the decision-making process around childcare at the program, local, and the policy level? And I wanted to ask you a specific question. How does Sherman's drop-in cater to diverse needs of our families in the community? And how do you bring that family voice to the table?
Right. Great question. So what I found out, like I said, I am an ear to the streets of the community, and I'm always asking, what can I do to assist? What can I do to help? What do you
Mhm.
guys suggest? And one thing is different types of childcare. I touched bases on this a little earlier. Some parents need drop-in childcare, and that's what I actually provide. I provide hourly drop-in childcare. Per the North Carolina division, is up to 4 hours where parents could drop their children off if they have to run errands, if they go to a meeting or whatever that may could be. They could drop their child off, and what we'll do, we'll watch them play games with them, do arts and crafts with them up to 4 hours. So some families just need that. Then you have other families that say, hey, my child gets out of school at 2, but I get off at 5. I need for somewhere for them to go. I said, okay, we'll do after school programming. If your child gets out at 2 or 2:30, we'll have after school care. We'll provide the after school care. We'll have transportation. We can pick them up, and we provide after school cares for them. So now we're hitting the drop-in, hourly drop-in child care. Say if you have to go somewhere and get your hair done at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night, we provide that hourly drop-in. Then you have some parents who just need the 2 to 6 range when their children get out of school. We provide the after school program. And then you say, hey, summertime is coming. Family B may say, hey, they're not in summer school. We need a summer camp. Sherman's drop-in. We'll have a summer camp for you too as well. So every family needs a different type of need. And what my job and what I try to do is try to correct and give them the opportunity to do that, whether it be hourly drop-in care, whether it just be after school daily, Monday through Friday, or if they need a summer camp from 8 to 6 where their parents can work. So again, as you said, there's diverse needs for every single family. Every family needs a different type of childcare. And as you said, for me, what I try to do is I try to offer that childcare for them. And one thing that I pride myself in and pride my staff in is I believe I'm very, very affordable, and parents let me know I'm very affordable, but at the same time, it's quality childcare. Um, I'm not in this to get rich. I'm in here to provide a service for our community. That is my goal. Whether if I'm doing the right thing, that is what my goal is. And it's providing quality after school and summer camp and hourly drop-in care for these parents to give them opportunity to do what they need to do, whether that be go to a job, go on a date, whatever it may be for them. I'm here to offer those childcare needs, and I want to make sure I'm affordable for them. Because again, I have a daughter. I love my daughter to death. She's 5 years old, but she is full of energy all the time. So things of that nature. And I know how parents, they may have multiple kids, and I know how I understands how it goes for them. So again, like you said, every family has a diverse needs. And here at Sherman's Drop-In, that's what we try to assess and how to give that benefit to them, whether it be an hourly drop-in care, or if they need that Monday through Friday after school care, or if they're summertime when school's out, they need full-time summer camp. So those are different child care options that we offer. And again, this was based off the family needs, what the community is saying to me. Hey, we wish we had this. We wish we had that. And like I said earlier, the goal is just try to expand it, make it affordable on all sides of towns and not just where I'm at. Again, because I'm in a good central location, but everyone cannot get to me. So again, what we're trying to do is like expand to different areas inside of town so they can have affordable child care, hourly drop-in care, summer camps, and after schools all over across the city.
Bryce, I have one question. What is the one thing that you would want people to understand about childcare in our community? What is that one thing that you want to
Um,
these hundreds of people know that's on the call today?
One thing that's very hard because there's a lot of things, but I would say it is a full-time necessity. It is a big need in our community. A lot of people just say, hey, we have nannies, we have babysitters. Everyone does not have access to a nanny. Everyone has not access to a babysitter. As Samantha was saying, everybody doesn't have vouchers and stuff like that. We have some daycares that have the capacity for 180, but they're, like she said, they may only be able to do 80 because something's going on. This is a necessity, is a real need in North Carolina. And sometimes people just overlook it and say, oh, we'll do this, we'll do that. But this is a real need. We need quality educators. You were talking about the program in some state. We need childcare leaders. We need people who wants to be in this field and make an impact. And I believe once we get there, we will have a better accessibility for all families across the community.
I agree. I agree. Jasmine, I have a question for you. What lessons have you learned from families that could inform the design of future childcare initiatives? Would you support an investment in universal pre-K?
This is a great question. First, I definitely would support universal pre-K. My childcare experience ranges from me being a child. I like to share with people that I'm not a parent yet, but I felt like I've been helping be a part of people's village and helping mother my whole life. I was that child that used to pick up the babies when I was a baby. So just being in the space of having experience working at an actual traditional daycare, to being a nanny, to being a babysitter, to being in a more professional childcare space now, I definitely support universal pre-K, but I also feel like families value trust, flexibility, and cultural understanding just as much as affordability. Children are people's most prized possessions, and I had a lot of success being a college student as well as a local babysitter. I was at a point where I had to decline certain clients because the word of mouth was word of mouthing, and I couldn't, fulfill the demand. But it was just that trust factor of parents feeling safe with you caring for their children. So I think those things definitely matter just as much as the price, because we see so many horror stories nowadays of daycares and their employees getting tired and burnt out and mistreating the children. So just taking them through, like, the actual caregivers through that process of training, professional development, continual education and learning, I think it is essential to childcare. But right, trust, flexibility, and just that understanding is just as important as the price of the service, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Tina, how can large employers like Wake Forest lead the way in setting new standards in childcare, benefits, and policies that other businesses can replicate? Do you authentically think that employers should help fund childcare?
I do think that employers should fund childcare. I think it's aside from being just a benefit personally and feeling personally that it's the right thing to do. As you all have discussed, it just economically makes sense. You need to support employees for them to be able to do the work of the organization, and I think that there is a very big and clear need for that. To the first part of your question, I think that it's important for employers to really do something. As you all have discussed too, their childcare needs are so diverse. There's no one size fits all solution, and businesses may get to a point where a particular solution is one size fits all. And I'll say that in some ways, the childcare center that Wake Forest has established, which is Monday through Friday working hours, is a one size fits all. And it's something that came out of, again, our needs assessment survey, where we saw this is the greatest needs of Wake Forest employees right now. And I think that businesses can get to a place of paralysis where we say, well, if we can't do everything, then maybe we can't do anything. And I think that it's not a great approach. So I'm really proud of the work that Wake Forest has done to say we're meeting this need right now and taking a big step forward. And then, taking a moment to say, what can we do next? So on a small scale, we have continued to listen to parents, especially those who have now enrolled in the center. We heard that the hours are not quite long enough, particularly in the morning, for folks to get to work. So already the center has only been open for 6 months, and we've made the change along with our partner to open even a half an hour earlier and have received good feedback about that. So I think that there's much more that employers can do. And I'm excited to see what Wake Forest does in the future. But I think getting out of that point of paralysis to say, let's do something, is a really good thing.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Part two of that question. what are one or two tangible actions that Wake Forest could take that would signal leadership in childcare policy? How can you guys advocate for some changes?
Yeah, one thing that it's been touched on a little bit by some of my colleagues here, but attending to the quality of the employment experience for the people providing the direct care. One of the things that I'm so impressed with that Wake Forest has included in its partnership with Childcare is that we have to see certain KPIs around their employee engagement. So we've said to Childcare, one of the reasons we want to work with you is because you care for, develop, and pay attention to the happiness of your teachers. So I think, and it is this delicate balance around price, because not everybody's going to do that. That's part of what we've required, though, because that's really important. I think we've got to take care of and pay the people caring for our children in reasonable ways. So I think that is one thing. I think too is occasionally talking to your community, making sure that what you started out to do and what you sort of thought was, to Tina's point, like the fix that we can do for our biggest population right now, is that still the right one? Because everything, I mean, Dr. Hinton, the world is so dynamic, as you pointed out at the beginning. I mean, every 24 hours, we're dealing with something else as parents and workers. Maybe call it pulse surveying your people that you're serving every once in a while, maybe yearly, to make sure you're still kind of hitting the big mark, because their lives are changing. Jobs, sometimes people are being impacted at the federal jobs being lost. Are we still hitting the mark because families have changed a little bit? So that would be a second thing I might suggest.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that knowledge with us. I'm going to jump over to Samantha Cole. Samantha, when I think about policy and advocacy, the next question, this will kind of lead into it. What policy changes at the state and local level has the Child Care Task Force had as their central focus? What would give us the greatest impact on stabilizing the ecosystem around childcare? How has the Tri-State Pilot Program been received by employers, families, the state of North Carolina? And then are there plans to expand it a little bit farther? Taking even a deeper dive into that question, what does that look like for expanded subsidies, raise and provider wages, investment in the workforce for training and professional development, tax incentives for employers to support childcare? We know that it takes a massive amount of funding to operate these childcare programs across the state of North Carolina. And our budgets are our budgets, right? We want to make sure that we're offering the highest care possible across the state. We also want to make sure that we are in tuned and we hear our staff and our teachers and the practitioners that are doing the hard work every day when the line item is speaking to wages and expanding subsidy.
I heard a few questions. I'm going to start with, if this is okay, I'm going to start with NC Tri-Share and work my way backwards. So we have, just like Dr. Hinton mentioned, and I'm so glad she did, there is an exciting pilot underway in the state of North Carolina called the North Carolina Tri-Share Pilot Program. And just for anyone on the call who is not as initiated in this yet, that's okay. It's new. Tri-Share, Tri being 3, refers to a tuition cost sharing model that was popularized in the state of Michigan a few years ago, I believe during the pandemic, that is now being piloted in a couple of other states. One of them is now here in North Carolina. A couple of years ago, the General Assembly appropriated about $900,000 to North Carolina Smart Start, aka North Carolina Partnership for Children, to distribute to 3 different Tri-Share hubs to test this idea out in North Carolina. And the concept is pretty simple. So knowing how expensive childcare tuition is for people in the state, in many cases, the cost of infant care for one child is actually more expensive than in-state tuition at a public university like UNC Chapel Hill. So it is enormously expensive for a lot of working families. Knowing that, NC Tri-Share effectively breaks down the cost of tuition for an eligible person, eligible being the key word, from 100% of them owing all of that tuition themselves to them owing about 33% of it by themselves. And the reason is the cost of that tuition is then shared with that eligible worker's employer organization if they choose to participate. And also the remaining third is shared by the state. So that is 66% more of those tuition dollars that working family gets to keep in their savings account, gets to use to cover other living expenses, pay their bills. And also really more meaningfully, I think it helps these families feel more confident keeping their children enrolled in high quality early care and education that's going to set them up for success in school and in life. And it also helps the family remain in the workforce with confidence because they've got a care arrangement that's not only reliable and high quality for their children, but it's much more affordable suddenly. And you're no longer having those really difficult conversations based on back of envelope math, looking at what you're spending on care versus what you're bringing in, and having that conversation about, okay, who needs to step back and leave the workforce to make this math make sense for our household. So it is a really wonderful idea. It is now actually expanded to eligibility statewide. So we began working on the project, serving children in it at the beginning of September of this past year. And there is a huge effort underway on the part of North Carolina Smart Start and the Partnership for Children, as well as the 3 partnerships for children originally awarded funding, to be getting the word out to the extent possible to employers all over the state at this point, really, to let them know that this is an opportunity available to them. That said, there's some challenges with it, of course. One of them is that whenever folks hear the word pilot, especially in the private sector, the concern is what happens when this goes away. What does it mean for us to be offering a benefit to some of our workers that we can't be confident is going to be here forever? To that, we like to say that this is an exciting public-private opportunity to expand access to health or access to childcare and make it more affordable for people, and that we've heard a lot of positive feedback and interest about it from the General Assembly. So we feel pretty confident that if it is successful and continues to enroll children and basically expands to the extent that it is expected and desired to expand to, that it would be something that we could coax a little bit more investment in the future. It's also challenging because there is an income cap on eligibility for this, just like for childcare subsidy. The difference is that we cannot serve anyone who earns more than 300% of the federal poverty rate for their entire household. So that means if you're earning a certain wage and you have a second income earner in the household, that could throw you off of eligibility. It's not a significantly higher eligibility threshold than you see for some of the other childcare resources out there. So the number of workers that we would find at any employer we talk to who financially qualifies for this is usually not representative of a very large proportion of their overall workforce. So compelling employers to enroll in something that won't serve the majority of their workforce is also a challenge. That said, this has been functioning really nicely so far with employers who happen to run childcare businesses themselves. And I think the reason for that is that it's helping those workers afford much more easily childcare for their own children so that they can continue participating in early care and education. So I think for now, what I would say about NC TriShare is that the door is wide open for conversations to be had with any employer organization in the state who is interested in learning more about it. We would certainly encourage that. I am going to make sure that folks have my contact information. While I do not lead the project, I do support it, and I would be happy to help put any employers in the room, public or private sector, in touch with more information about how to get involved. And that's NC TriShare. Could you repeat the other questions, Dr. Hinton? I'm sorry.
Yes, so I was speaking to subsidy, wage atonement, where we're able to address the staffing and the teachers in the workforce, their concerns around their wages,
Sure.
as well as professional development and things of that nature. How is the task force supporting those line items for individuals that may have concerns about the tier levels, having 1 tier versus 3 tiers across the county? What is the work there?
Thank you for asking. So we've had 1 meeting so far. Our interim recommendations are going to be prepared for submission in late June. So it's hard for me to get ahead of what the task force's recommendations around supports and compensation for workforce will be. That said, it is a whole scope of work for the task force to drill down on, and it's something that folks are very interested in learning more about. There have been some really exciting ideas around making sure that there is a better path to increased compensation and supports for folks in the early care and education workforce in other states. A couple that I'll call out. First of all, Kentucky has an exciting program that guarantees free childcare for childcare workers in the space, which is a wonderful benefit that I think we can learn a lot about. That's something that we're trying to furnish some more information sharing from, to make sure that members of our task force have heard about that as an idea, and we can understand more about how it functions financially and also logistically in the state. And another one that I'm really interested in that has yielded excellent results, a colleague of mine in Iowa who has a role similarly structured to mine, that's kind of at the nexus of childcare and economic development. She and her colleagues have been leading an effort for the last few years that was initially local and is now statewide because of its success, called wage enhancement programs. And basically she went to many different communities in Iowa, talked with economic developers and chambers of commerce to reach out to employers in those communities to say, we'd like you to imagine what it would look like for you to contribute a certain amount financially into a common pot that can then be redistributed to elevate wages and benefits for childcare operators in your community. That helped with talent recruitment and retention in the early care and education space. It helped create new childcare slots that weren't there previously, because with knowing that there is a stronger pipeline of early care educators that are going to be more satisfied in their jobs and staying in their roles, that means that you can grow your childcare business with confidence, and it means shorter wait lists eventually for people who live in those communities. They were able to replicate that in many different corners of the state of Iowa, and now there are state dollars that match those private buckets of funding that are raised from employer organizations too, so it's more sustained. And that is operating statewide. So that's something that we're excited to share more information about with our task force here as well.
Thank you so much for that lens of knowledge. And we're going to conclude with one last question. Then we're going to turn the discussion back over to Ms. Mitchell at Leadership Winston-Salem to close us out. Sherman, the last question goes to you. Are you ready? Okay. What would it take, right, to scale your drop-in care services to serve more families and to maintain quality and affordability without compromising the supports and resources and needs that every child deserves? You can consider private partnerships, licensing, your business model. The vision should be both sustainable and scalable.
Right. All good questions. So what I would say with the drop-in childcare, under per the North Carolina rule, you don't have to be a licensed childcare center to do hourly drop-in. You would have to just register with the state, go through the childcare, and let them know that you are doing that. When I got into it, I was deciding, should I be licensed or not? Now, the hourly drop-in, like I said, is not licensed, but that's less paperwork. So if we're trying to scale this down and try to put more out here, we could do an hourly drop-in care. And obviously the trust and all that things comes into it. But if you get with a quality program like myself, who's been in it for years, we can provide that trust with you guys. And it's less tactical work as a force of child care with license, because you have to go through inspections. You have to go through this A, B, all the way through Z. But with the hourly drop-in, is registered with the state. They will come out and inspect, do little things like that, but it's not as much legwork and paperwork as it is for a licensed child care. So to expand and make more hourly drop-ins, I would think more facilities that we could use that are already there, or partnering with bigger businesses to use some of their spaces to actually provide these hourly drop-in cares for them. Also, I would also like to call on even getting more educators in there. And as you can see, to be more specific, I would like to see more males in this childcare space. As you see, we're sitting on a female on this panel, and I am the only male, and that is totally fine. But I have a passion for helping our community, helping the youth, and I would like to see more males in this space. Right now, if you just take a pot of 100 people, if we're looking at childcare, mostly only females would apply for these positions, and that cuts down our target audience automatically because we're just counseling out males in total. I would like to see more males come up front. Hey, I want to change. I want to do this in the childcare community and help out. And that would help us get more educators in this field to help assist with this childcare crisis. And I call it a crisis because it is a crisis. We need this. The families need this. So I would like to see more males, more churches and recreation centers, community, bigger organizations allow hourly drop-ins in your locations. Allow hourly drop-in locations to do certain things for you. It's not typical childcare. This is hourly childcare, and make sure it's flexible for everyone. Right now, just to throw my prices, my price is only $8 an hour. We're talking $8 an hour for hourly childcare. The first hour, if you come, is free on us. So when we say affordable, that's what affordable looks like, and go from there. And also, just to make it equal for everyone, scholarships too as well. More scholarships. Some parents can't afford it. You may have the best one on, say, Ronaldo Road or Country Club or something like that, but some kids may stay over there or they can't afford it, but they have openings. Let's do some scholarships for those students, you know. So just because everyone can afford it, you may not be at full capacity. Like you may have 100, but you only have 80 parents. Let's use the other 20 slots for scholarships for other kids to come over there, enjoy it too as well, because those parents need childcare as well. So again, I think it's very feasible to make these things happen. But I do believe going with the either after school or the hourly drop-in rate it's easier to fund, and it's easier to get through all the loopholes and go from there. You still can pay your teachers at a quality rate, and going from there. And again, like I said, it's not a get rich program. It's something that we want to help the community do. And in my model, I pay staff what they're worth. Like I said, I'm not trying to get rich. I need quality educators and quality childcare professionals to assist with what we're doing. And I do believe that hourly drop-in care model, as you asked, could be scaled all across town in different locations. And it will be very, very successful. We just have to get it out there and get the word out there.
Thank you for sharing, Rice. We're going to turn it over to Ms. Mitchell. But before I turn it over, I just want to say thank you for your participation today. Thank you for fluently answering the questions. I've been a childcare provider for 30 years, and I've served all areas in Forsyth County. And it's phenomenal to be on a panel like this today. It's very phenomenal that the governor's task force is taking the initiative to make changes. We appreciate it. Ms. Mitchell, thank you.
Right. Well, I want to say thank you. You all have offered a wealth of information here today. We sincerely appreciate the work that you do in our communities to provide childcare, to work with employers to find solutions to childcare for their employees. As one of the largest employers in our community, Wake Forest University, to being a leader in knowing that childcare as a benefit may be something that others can look at as well. So hats off to all of you. We've had several questions in the chat function. Some of them I did click on as being answered live, but what we will do, we don't have any more time today because we are respectful of folks' time, but we can actually share contact information if you all allow us to do so folks can reach out to you directly. Again, we touched on a lot of things about inclusivity and being equitable and how to scale and what do you do for childcare workers so that they can sustain their mental health. So we're very, very appreciative of all of the answers that you all gave here today. It is recruitment season for Leadership Winston-Salem. So if this webinar struck a chord with you and you'd like to know more about what we do and what conversations like this, other ones that we have, please register for an information session on our website at leadershipws.org or use the link that Jared is putting in the chat. If you're already an alum and you know someone who would benefit from this experience, please also go to the website to nominate a candidate. We have a plethora of resources that are going to be available in the chat. Jared is actually posting other links that were sent to folks who were on the call. So please check those out as well. I'm going to give a quick pause here so he can get those things posted in our chat. So as resources for everyone that was with us today. Another thing, a quick reminder, Leadership Winston-Salem is a nonprofit organization, and we rely heavily on the support of individual donors and corporate sponsors, which Wake Forest University is one of them, to provide the array of programming that we do. If you enjoyed what we offered today, please consider making a gift to the organization or our website by using the donate button in the chat as well. Also, please join us for our next Leaders in Lunch session, which will be on May the 14th, as we explore loneliness as a growing public health crisis in our community, and what leaders can do to foster connection in workplaces and in communities. Don't miss out on that timely and important conversation, and Jarrett will post that link to register for in the chat as well. It is 1:01 p.m. I've kept you 1 minute longer. My apologies about that. But thank you all for joining us today. Sincere thanks to all of our panelists for the wealth of information that you have shared with us. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you all.